How's it going, guys? So we are back in the hotel room. We just did a video on the World Finals breakdown. And so now I want to go ahead and talk about SKT winning Worlds and what that kind of means for the future of LoL esports and sort of the transitional period we may see. Uh, so again, first off, congratulations to SKT and congratulations to Bengi and Faker for winning their second World Championship. Uh, and so that's kind of what I want to focus on is the stability of teams and sort of the player movements that we're seeing now, and why I think that's going to stop and we're going to start seeing more stable rosters. Uh, Even when you look at more traditional sports, teams that switch up their roster pretty often aren't as successful as teams that sort of stick out the bad times and work on their problems. And so when you look at SKT, they had a wonderful season in Season 3, right? They had that amazing run to the World Championships, and then coming back into OGN, they had that perfect OGN winter season. And so, yeah, they looked, SKTK, I would say, looked incredibly strong. And so, even moving into Season 4, they didn't look as strong just because of the sort of power that was Samsung White and Blue. But they were still a very strong team. They weren't as strong as they were in Season 3, but they were still a very consistent team. I want to say in most Western situations, if you saw a team go from the top to sort of the mid-tier that quickly, a lot of managers and players and coaches would want to move or leave the team or break up the team and have new players and all kinds of stuff like that. People kind of forget the only reason SKT changed up their roster as much as they did was mainly due to the fact that Korea was limiting the amount of teams that the organizations could have. So instead of having sister teams, only having that one team and roster to go ahead and play in the OGN. And so that's when you saw the combination of the combining of SKT and SKTK and SKTS. And so that's where you see the huge roster shifting. Now, even going across the board on all the Korean teams, we're seeing Najin not really having too much of a problem. You're seeing Green the Jin Wing, Green Wing. Wait, Jin Air Green Wings. You see, sorry about that. You see them really coming out and having a more stabilized roster, a combination of the two, not really bringing in any kind of different players. Coup Tigers, of course, is a brand new roster, but I don't really see them making many changes moving forward. And all the stuff across the board. Then when you look at China, a lot of the teams that didn't do that well were the teams that moved around massive amounts of their roster. Whether it was OMG, Starhawk Royal Club, all that stuff like that. The two teams that did very well were IG and EDG, and they really didn't move around their roster too often. All they did was move around their roster to accommodate the Korean players, and they still had a strong basis of the other three players around them that were around the entire time. Now, in my opinion, I think that SKT winning that second championship after that down year in between of their two championships, I think really shows that it's not really about the players, but it's more about the organization and how we can move forward and give these players the best chance to succeed. Of course, the player talent is important, but I think if you have that strong basis and you've proven that you can do that, and there really isn't a degradation of talent, it's more of a just kind of mental problems or strategical problems, you can go ahead and fix that across the season. Now moving across to NA, in particular, you're seeing a huge roster movement, huge roster shifting, going mainly with TSM and going with CLG. So CLG yesterday actually dropped to Doublelift, and then he was picked up by TSM. So right now, their rumored roster is going to be Haunters in the top lane, Rush in the jungle, Bjergsen in mid lane, Doublelift in AD carry, and then Adrian at support. Very strong roster across the board. So I personally didn't see TSM's roster as particularly strong, but and so I expected these changes. But honestly, if they can't win with this kind of a roster, I don't think that's anything from a player's point of view, because I think all five of them are extremely strong, and I don't think that. I think from a synergy standpoint, they work very well together. We'll have to see that, of course, and of course, if the personalities don't mix out, all this can be for naught. But I think if everything lines up properly and they still don't perform, I think that's more of a coaching and strategic problem that you can go ahead and fix with time. I think a lot of people are going to expect them to do very well out of the gate when forming that synergy, forming that trust takes a long time. And you see that with NBA teams. You saw it with the Miami Heat when they had LeBron James come over and Chris Bosh come over to join Dwayne Wade and form that big three. They had the beginning half of the season wasn't actually that strong. They took a lot of time to go ahead and get going. Once they got rolling, they were fine. And then even then, it took them another year to go ahead and win a championship. And again, form that synergy, form that trust, and get that team, that cohesion around them to go ahead and perform at their best. And I think that right now the sort of state of League of Legends esports and teams wanting to come in and win and perform right out of the gate is an expectation that you see a lot in regular sports as well, where the expectations far outweigh what is possible, especially with the new roster. And so you're seeing teams get blown up earlier than they're reaching their full potential. And I think that's a huge problem, and I think that's something we can avoid in League of Legends esports. And esports in general, when we're talking about regular like CSGO and Dota and everything like that, Dota's a different problem. I think that's more of a problem with the international format than it is anything else. But that's a different topic. But overall, I think that we can go ahead and set these teams up for success and have every player go ahead and hit their potential with their roster. We just need to give them time and more time to do so. And we're seeing that with SKT and what they're able to do with that. So guys, that's my thoughts. That's a little bit of what I'm thinking about. So go ahead and let me know in the comments what you think, or go ahead and shout me out at Twitter, and I'll see you later.